Guys, it's Katie. Sorry about that. I have a broken camera stand and I have a new one in the mail. Today we're going to make kind of a, in my mind, I have a mosaic idea in my head. So the first thing you're going to need are pearl clays. And I did have some Primo accent clays, but I didn't have them in every color I wanted. So I'm making a pearl clays. I made this blue and I added some extra pearls to these other ones, and I'm also making a pink pearl clay. And I know they do have a pink pearl clay, but I just wanted to quickly show you how I would make it. So the first thing I would take is my box of mica powders, and you want, you know, a similar color to what you plan on using. Just some kind of pinks. You can also use the interference types or the color changing types. When I made the big batch of these, I did use gloves, so gloves are handy for this so you don't make yourself a mess. Actually, I'm going to put gloves on. So to make a pearl clay at home, just obviously take whatever kind of clay you're using, whatever brand you use, and take a base color and then add your pearls to it. Whether it's, these are Pearl X, you can use Born Pretty, and then just mix. Get it all mixed in there really, really good. And that, you do need a lot. It does take a while. It's probably taken me an hour to do these 3 colors. Like I said, some of them are already pearls, and then I just added some extra pearl to it, but it's really all you need to do. And I haven't made this project yet, so I don't have anything to show you in the beginning. So I really don't have a way to show you what we're gonna make yet, but I will. So again, I added a bunch of mica powders to these to make it nice and shimmery, just like my other colors. And choose whatever colors you want. This time I'm going with like a turquoisey color, a green, a blue, a purple, and this pink. With this pink, I'm going to roll it out. I'm using an Atlas 150 Wellness, and I'm going to put it on my 3rd setting. So 0 is my thickest. I'm going to go down to the 3rd. I don't want these crazy thick, but I also don't want them crazy thin either, because I do want to sand them. So that's about the thickness I'm going to do. And I want to sand them on my finished project, so I don't want them too thin. So I'm just going to roll this out nicely. And I'm also kind of conditioning it as well, even though I've been mixing it. I let it sit for a while, so it kind of cooled off, but when you're mixing it like that, it's pretty thin. Or it's pretty soft, so let me just quickly get this rolled out. Okay, I have my piece rolled out, and I'm going to lay it on the tile with my other ones. And I might need to use 2 tiles. Either way, lay it out. The next thing we're going to do is bake. We want to bake this just till it's set, but it doesn't need to be completely finished baked. I'm going to trim this one a little bit so we can all fit on the same tile. Meaning that you want to be able to, it needs to be hard, but it doesn't need to be properly baked, because we're going to do multiple bakes, so it won't really matter right now if it's at its full strength, because it's correctly baked. So I'm going to fix up all of these edges. Not that they really matter, because we're going to cut all these up. Ooh, it fell. I'm sorry. Broken camera stand. Can't wait till a new one comes in the mail. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm sorry. It's late. But I wanted to quickly record this so I could show you what we were going to do tomorrow. So anyways, this is what I have. These are my colors. Again, use whatever colors suit your fancy. So these are my pearls. There. I'm going to just smooth them off quickly with my hand with the gloves on to get rid of any major fingerprints or ripples. But even that won't matter, because we're really going to cut it up. I'll show you a similar project we were working on, but it's not working out. So this is kind of my idea to do, except for I took clay, put my mica powders on them, and then baked it, and then cut it up into little, you know, pieces, and then stuck them on raw clay. Now, the problem as I was doing this and thinking this, I want a mosaic look. I was going to backfill with clay, but I can't sand this thing. I mean, I could wipe most of it off, but I may wipe off my pearls. My second thought was, okay, let's mix some liquid clay with my micas and then brush it on a little slab of clay and then bake it and then cut it up. Well, I don't think it's going to get clear enough for what I want. So I'm just going to make colors, and that's what we'll put onto our clays. Oh, now I got something on my green. So anyways, I'm going to bake this only about maybe 30 minutes or so. And that will be enough for slicing it into geometric shapes. So we can mosaic it. And I just saw I have an eyelash in that one. Okay, so tomorrow we will cut and make a pendant. So it is now tomorrow for me. And all of my little pieces of clay are now baked. So I did not care if I had a shiny side, because that's the side that's going to go down towards my raw clay. So first thing we're going to do is cut these pieces up, and I'll start with the purple one that I have here. And I'm pretty much just going to cut up little strips of clay. Let me see if I can get this light a little better. And then we will, you know, and obviously be careful with this because you're pushing through raw clay. There we go. So push through, get a little strip, and then just start cutting up squares, triangles, ooh, I don't want it flying, and different little shapes. You want some longer, some bigger, some skinnier. If you've ever done mosaics, it's just like cutting up pieces of glass. Some fatter strips. So as you can see, that's all I'm doing. Just cutting up little shapes out of this. Get some smaller ones, some bigger ones out of these baked clays. So I'll carry on with that, and I will do all, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors, and I will make little piles of each 5 colors. Okay, so I have a little bit, I mean, I still have plenty left to cut up, but I have a little bit of each color cut up right now. Next part we're going to do, I'm going to use black as the background clay. I have some Primo here rolled out on my thickest setting, so that's a 0 on there. I don't know if you could see that. And we're going to use whatever shape you want. Now, initially I started to make a cabochon. That's what I showed you last night. My personal thing, I like to resin things. I do use UV resin, but you could use regular resin. The reason why I decided not to go with like a domed type cabochon is because it's very difficult to apply resin. And I want that nice kind of shine at the end. So I'm going to use kind of a flat surface on this one. And I'm going to use these oval cutters. So I have 2 oval cutters, and I'm going to make it, you know, one of the normal and oval shapes. So first thing is I'll just place my cutter on, and then while I'm leaving this cutter on, God, I can't wait until my new camera stand comes. While I'm leaving this cutter on, I'm going to use a smaller oval, and I'm going to leave a little space around the top because I want to be able to fit small pieces in. Just try to center it. Can you kind of see that? I'm going to place it at the top here. So let me pause this, see if I can fix my camera. Okay, so that's what I'm going to use for a design. There's a little bit, I tried to make it even on both sides. Here, let me just see it That's not very straight. Yeah, that'll be fine because we can also mess with it a little bit later. So then I'll press that down, and I left both cutters in at the same time. So then, I don't know why I keep turning it around, because in editing it's just at a weird angle for you guys. I want it brighter. God, I hate this camera. Or stand. I need to get it fixed. So that's what we have so far. So let me take that off. I'll take that out. And that was rolled out. This Primo was rolled out on my thickest setting. I'm going to just take something to pull out my little center here. Try shutting this light off. And that background sound, that's my washer upstairs. So there we go. That is what I'm going to use for a shape. And you can obviously clean it up a little bit. This is one of my dental instruments. But our shape will get slightly distorted from our things. So, okay. The next what we'll do, I find it very helpful to have a piece of tweezer. Let me see if I can prop this little thing up. Get the angle. There we go. That looks better. It's weird for me, but better for you. Okay, so next what we'll do, like I said, is we're going to take these little pieces and we're going to apply them just like a mosaic. Now, what you'll want to do is try to keep the spacing between them all very even. As much as you can, and that way when we backfill, each gap between will be about the same. So anyways, and I'm just going to press them slightly down in. We don't need to go crazy deep because I'm going to backfill anyway. So you just want them to stick in a little bit and press. And then let's see. Do that one there. And I'm just feeling with my fingers that they're all about the same depth in. You can also cut pieces to fit a spot that you have that you're like, oh, I really need one to fit there. Just cut it and get it to fit there, just like I would cut glass. It's much easier to cut than glass. Okay, let me see if I can. Oh, God, I can't wait till I get my new machine. I'm so sorry, guys. I don't know if that actually zoomed in at all for you. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going around and placing little pieces. Oh, this is so frustrating. Okay, hang on. Pop. Okay, I think I fixed it. So anyways, you're just going to keep going around and finding the perfect piece to fit in, and then gently kind of squish it down into the same level. And, you know, you can have the same colors next to each other. Oh, I haven't used the purple yet, so I should use some purple. Let's see. Purple there. And you see how my center's now getting a little distorted? That's okay. We can recut, we can reshape, we can do whatever we need to do to fix that. Let's see. What if and I am working upside down now. If I put that one there, yeah. And then that means I can fit, just do a couple more before I continue on with this. No, not that piece. Let's find a different one. Yeah, one fits there. I want it a little further away from my center hole. And this is definitely a finicky project. If you don't like messing with little pieces, probably not the project for you. But I felt like doing something. I mean, it's not hard. It's just gonna take time to get it all perfect and done. Let me just focus in on that. So I'm gonna continue on doing this, and then I will be back when it is done. I think it looks cool. And then I'll be able to actually sand this because it's solid colors of clay and multicolor. Okay, I will be back when I'm done, guys. Okay, guys, so this is what I have done so far. Let me bring it up a little bit so you can see it. I think it looks super cute. So at this point, what I'm going to do to make sure they're fully even, I am going to take another tile. And I'm going to push down on the top, and that way maybe it will get all the pieces set around the same depth. So I'm gently going to just lay another one of my tiles on and kind of press them all in. And obviously my shape is going to get deformed, but I can deal with that later. That one got a little tilted. Okay, so now we're going to bake this. I'd probably say, again, another 30 minutes or so to make sure they're kind of bonded into the raw clay. And then we'll come back when we do that part. And we'll begin, we'll put a side on, and then we will add a side in. Yeah, and we'll backfill it. I think it looks cool. I think it looks cute and different and kind of like a mosaic-y piece. But anyways, I will get this baked. I'm going to bake it at my manufacturer's recommended temperature. And for about 30 minutes, because again, we're going to do another bake on it afterwards. So just enough to set it so the pieces don't move. Anyways, I will be back when that's done. Alright, so my piece is now out of the oven. It's baked for about 30 minutes, and this is what we have so far. As you can see, my edges are very rough in there and on the outside. So what I'm going to do next is trim my edges. Now, there's a couple ways you can do this. One, you can do it with sandpaper, which is what a lot of people do. I have a Dremel. I use my Dremel 90% of the time for trimming things. I'm very comfortable with my Dremel. I've used it for years. In the dental field, we use it all the time to make like temporary crowns and things. So I have a Dremel 4000. This is my Dremel. Down at the bottom. This is a refurbished one I got on Amazon, so it was a lot cheaper. It has a speed thing down here, which when I'm trimming, I usually use it on speed 15. There's all kinds of burrs. They are called burrs, and you do want to look them up on the, I buy most of mine from Amazon. There's tons of kinds. You can buy diamond ones, carbide ones, all kinds of them. You could trim with something. This is a carbide burr. You could trim with something like this. There's tons of different shapes. It's just whatever shape you want. There are diamond ones. Again, different shapes. So the one I have right here is this one. The one I'm going to use to trim with is a sandpaper disc. And you can look it up on Amazon. They're called sandpaper discs for the Dremel. Rotary sandpaper discs, different kinds of things. This one came in a pack for my Dremel. It came in a big pack with different grits. I got about, I think it was like 400 to 800 grit. So I'm going to use that to trim around the sides of my piece. Now my piece is still warm. It's not cool yet. So to put my tip onto my Dremel, I push this button. This is a lock button right there. And that's what allows me to open and close this chuck right here. So open it fatter, just like some of the hand drills, the pin drills, you got to make it wider in there to fit a fat thing in. So now it should be wide enough to slide my bit down in. See, if I close it, it won't be wide enough to fit my bit down in. So I'm going to open it and seat my bit all the way in. And this disc is a little tight for this rubber thing, so that's why it's not seated all the way. With these sandpaper discs, they go on these little rubber things, and they come on and off hard. So this is just like a rubber thing, and then you can put different ones on. And mine came in like a pack of 300 of each or something. So then you just lock it and twist it tight, and then give it a pull to make sure it's not going to come off. Now I just have an on-off switch, and then I can adjust my speed. Let me get this off my... Again, this is not fully baked yet. So what I'm going to do is just go around the edges and flatten off my edges. And then this is going to be a little too big for the center, so I'm going to use probably like one of these to trim out my center. But again, you could use a piece of sandpaper and just go around and fix up your shape a little bit. So that I will do next. I will just clean up my shape and get it to where I'm happy. However you normally clean up your shapes, that's how you want to do it. But people are afraid of Dremels. You know, if you get the flexi lead, which is a smaller thing to hold in your hand, it's a lot more complicated. So just get the regular Dremel and plug it in, and then on and off. I'm not afraid of them. I really like it. You don't need to be on, I mean, this goes up to speed 35, but I usually use it anywhere between 5 and 20. 20 is usually the highest I go. So I'm going to trim this up, and I'll be back. When trimming polymer clay, whether it's with sandpaper, if you're doing it dry, you should have a mask on, just FYI. You don't want to really be breathing in the polymer clay ever. So I'll be back when I get that trimmed. Another thing I did, so I used that sandpaper disc. The other thing, in my polishing kind of tips video, how to polish polymer clay, I showed these polishing discs. This is the first one I use. It came with 2 in that link. This is the first one I use, the orange one, and that gives me an awesome polish. If you press harder though, you can actually trim with it. It's a lot gentler than using like sandpaper on this sandpaper disc. This can get minor trimming, and then once I'm done polishing with that, I use the second one that comes in that kit, the fluffy one. But so now I've gone around the outside with the sandpaper, and then I'm going to go around the outside with this. So it's on speed 15. It's really hard to do it right now on camera, but can you see how it's going from this chalky where I use the sandpaper to black where I'm using this? So I'll finish this part and I'll be right back. Okay, so here's my piece so far, and it's not perfect yet, but that's okay. We still got more to do. Now remember that these pieces are not like super embedded into the clay at this point, so you kind of have to be delicate when handling it. You don't want to be dragging your fingers across the top. The next thing I want to do is add a rim of clay around the border, and that will help me get a height, I think is what I'll do. So let me grab some clay and we will make that border around there, because I think I'm going to use a layer of liquid clay and then regular clay to backfill these. I decided I'm going to use my extruder to make my border. There are many different ways to make a border around a piece, and I'm sure if you're watching my videos, then I'm sure you've seen tons of other more professional videos if you're at the end of your watch list, because I'm sure I've kind of run out of interesting videos to watch on my YouTube over the time. So I use an extruder. Again, there are tons of different tutorials on how to make borders. You could roll a snake out and then put it through your pasta machine. You could roll out a sheet and cut strips, but I'm going to use my extruder because it is easier. So I'm just going to place my black, and I may need more, but that's what I had out. And I'm going to use this one. This is a small rectangle one in my kit, and that will give me, if I can show this, just enough height to go over my black edge. It'll go over my black edge and a little bit onto my color pieces, so that way it'll kind of cause make a rim that will be able to hold the clay that we're bordering it with. So put the clay in, put whatever. I've also, if you don't have one of these rectangle ones, this was a cheap one I got off of Amazon, this extruder, and it works really well. It was like $8 or something. But if you don't have one of these, you could roll out, if you're not good at rolling out little snakes by hand, use the round one, a small round one, and then roll that through your pasta machine, whatever way you want to do it. And then just extrude out your little strip of clay here. Oh, I keep my tips in a pill bottle, my extruder things. If you're wondering why there's a pill bottle cap right there. It's a good way to store them for me. And then my little round cutters, like the little round cutters that you get, I keep those in my in a pill bottle as well. Well, I do think I have enough there. I don't need more. Let me just cut that off right there. Yeah, like my little tiny round cutters, I keep in a pill bottle as well. Okay, so we will need, I think I will use a little liquid clay just to make sure I get a little nice seal. I'm going to use some Bacon Bond. And as you know, oh, this is not my open Bacon Bond, hang on. We'll just put enough to make it tacky, not to make it super slippery. Or as Fiona Abel Smith says, slippy. Just want to make it sticky, not slippy. Oh, I lost a little piece there. That's okay, we can set it in. See, one of my pieces fell off. That's okay. I'll be able to see where it was, and I'll set it back in a second. Okay, so now that it's tacky, I think I'm going to set it back on my tile. Let me just move this stuff out of the way. Nice immature videos, huh? Or amateur, I should say. It's mainly because my camera thing broke and I can't set this where I would normally set it, and it's making it super difficult for me to film. So I'm going to cut one end of this flush. And then I'm going to start laying it flat on my tile. And again, I'm working one at a tilted angle and upside down. And then I'll use something, where's my silicone tool, just to butt it up against the base there. And the start is the hardest part. Once you start getting it going around, it's actually not that bad. I'm going to cut some of this off here. I probably should have cut a flush cut, but whatever. The nice thing about polymer clay is if you mess it up, you can redo it. If it's not looking great, you can redo it. Anytime, you can redo it, except for when it's baked. So if you're not happy with something, do not bake it. Or bake it, and I have a pile of them that I didn't like, and I use them for testing things. So I'm going to continue to drag this around the back of it. Sorry, my hand's going to be in the way for just a second. I'm going to pick this up a little bit. And I don't care about these little pieces. We're going to sand again at the end. I can get a pretty high shine and buff wood just by sanding and buffing. I sand by hand, unless I need like a lot of sanding, that like a gross removal. I do that with my Dremel. But other than that, I sand by hand generally, and then I buff with those two on my Dremel that I showed you. And I can get, I mean, this is just sanded and buffed, and I can get a pretty freaking high shine. I don't know about you, but that looks beautiful to me. That has nothing, no Renaissance wax, oops, nothing on it. Absolutely nothing but polymer clay. Nothing. And all I went up to was a 3000 grit, 4 to 3000, and then buffed it. I'm telling you, those buffing wheels that I showed you are amazing. Only like the first 2 times that you use them do you get like excess spraying out. But after that, you really don't get stuff like little pieces or little fibers flying off. So I'm just trying to get the ends to meet up. So I'm just gonna keep trimming until I get the ends perfect. Oh, my dogs are barking. Oh, there goes another piece. That's okay. We can set pieces back in fairly easily. So I'm just going to join these two. Smooth them off a little bit. And our smear that we're going to use inside will actually kind of be able to hide that seam. Okay, you see how it's, I don't know if I can show it, but it's kind of raised. So I'm just messing with it a little bit. And you can play with it until it's, you know, to where you're happy. Just get it all on there. And then I'm also going to do the inside. Same way, I'll apply some liquid Sculpey, and then I'll apply that. But I'm going to do that off camera because it's kind of a pain in the butt to do it upside down like this. And I will be back when I'm done that kind of bordering. While I was waiting for the first one to bake, I did a second one as well. Just a different shape. This is definitely probably an easier shape to start with and to mold. I probably should have done this one first because I've never done this technique. I really love the way they look. I mean, they look so cool, I think. So I'm going to border mold this one as well. So same thing. My new camera should be here this week, so I'm really excited about that. This is still a little warm. I'm going to apply some Bacon Bond to the outside of this as well. But I just went and got my dogs. I have 2 pit bulls. I just went and got them from the outside, and one of them has blood all over him, and I have no clue if they just killed something like a chipmunk or something out there, or a mole or a snake. I've seen them attack a snake. I don't see any wounds on them, so I don't know. Like if they were wrestling and they scratched one another, I have no clue. It looks like blood. It's red and he's tan and it wasn't there just a minute ago, so I do not know what's on him. So a thin layer of liquid clay or Bacon Bond or anything you have. And then again, we're going to wrap around. And at some point I think I am going to add a backing on as well. Because though it's going to look thick like this, it's not going to be that thick. And we want a nice back anyways. And I'll put a signature into it if I remember. A lot of times I forget. And if I end up selling the piece, I grind it in later with my Dremel. I just grinded my initials because a lot of times I forget. And I mean, you can make your own signature stamps, but the easiest thing I found was at my Michael's store, they had a, in those little bins for like $1, you know, the on sale item type things, they have these little letter stamps, and I use those and I put my whole name. If the piece is big enough. If not, I'll just put initials. So again, I'm wrapping this guy around. And it's okay. Can you see it that it kind of goes in right there? It's okay because we're going to backfill this. So as long as the outside looks okay, it really doesn't matter what's happening on the inside. And I do this a lot of times. If any of you watch Samantha Burrows, I do this a lot of times compared to the Jessima smear because it's easier for me. The Jessima smear, I can get to work, but most of the time I have to use Sculpey 3 to get it to work well. It takes some practice. Now I've gotten a lot better at it, but in the beginning I really struggled with that smearing to make your sides look pretty. So I would do this instead. And on a normal flat piece, you would just make it the same height as your piece. So I would just roll out a snake and then do it. So I'm just going to check the back and kind of squish it down at the bottom gently. And just run my blade along, make sure there's nothing really sticking up. Not really, a little bit right there. The other thing I did off camera on the other one that I quickly wanted to show you as well, now that we have that border on, and I dropped it. Okay, is you know what you can do is, since all your pieces are in, you can take your little pliers and or tweezers or whatever and give them a quick wiggle. If they feel super loose, try to pull it off. Actually, that one's fairly stuck because a couple of my other ones fell off, which was fine because I just right now used a little liquid clay and put it back in its spot like that one. This color, I should have used Primo, but I used Sculpey 3, so you see how it crumbled. So I'm just going to take a little liquid clay right there, boop, dot. Take my piece. Again, very hard to do on camera. And set it back down in there. I think that's upside down, actually. This is a hard project to record, I have to say. It's because it's such small pieces, it's a little bit finicky. It's hard to actually show you guys what I'm doing. It's kind of like doing embroidery, polymer clay. That one I tried to make a video a long time ago, but one, it takes a long time, and two, everything's super tiny. So like I just stuck that back on there. The rest of them feel pretty stuck. So this one too, I'll get in the oven quickly with my other one, and we'll bake them both off, and I will see you when we're back. Okay, so it's out of the oven, and we have the border on it. Sorry, I feel like I just got a hair in my mouth. Anyways, so we have the border on it. What we're going to do next, I decided rather than just smear in soft clay fully, since these pieces are a little kind of weak, I'm going to use a thin layer of liquid clay down in there. I already did my other piece here. So there's a thin layer of liquid clay down in the bottom. I did use black liquid clay. You could use whatever color you have on hand, but in my case I used black because I'm going with black and I have black. But because I'm going to smear a layer of something on top of that, you could use a layer of clear if you have it. So, and I can't leave this on the tilt the whole time because obviously liquid clay runs. So I'm going to start just by trying to squirt it down in, which most of the time is going to end up on the top anyways. I'm going to squirt some down in and around, and this will just give them all some support. But I don't want the look of the liquid clay either. I want a look of regular Primo clay, so I'm just squirting it down in. Almost like grout would be when you do your mosaics. And yes, it looks like a mess. Next, I'm going to take my painting spatula and I'm going to smear this along. Now, I'm sure you could use a credit card. I'm sure you could use anything you have, but I have this, so I'm going to use it. So just literally drag it off the tops and kind of, otherwise it kind of sits on the tops, and that will push it down into the cracks. So I start with a little bit and then do a little bit more, and start with a little bit and do a little bit more. So it's definitely not surrounding each one, so I'm going to add some more. And when my new camera stand comes, I'll have a better angle that you can see. Right now I'm like in a really awkward position for myself. I'm leaning way over, working upside down, trying to look at the camera because I don't have it set up right, so I'm trying to see if you're actually seeing what I want you to see. Okay, and now some of the areas I find in between get too full, so then I take this little, it's just a regular needle that I put some clay on the back, and just drag it in between where you want it, and it'll actually start to like flow in the cracks. Now this one I did smaller pieces on. It was actually easier when I did bigger pieces on the second piece I did. Everything was putting it together, doing this. They're stronger. So I'm just trying to get a little liquid clay touching each piece all around the project. And this way a little bit. And you can pull it. If you tilt and pull, it'll kind of go where you want it to go once you get it down in the cracks. So I'm going to finish smushing all this around, and then I'll show you right when I'm done getting it filled in between all the pieces. Okay. Okay, so I got it smushed around in all of my pieces, and there's a little bit along everything. The next thing I'm going to do is take just a baby wipe or a tissue, whatever you got, and with a little bit of alcohol, and it really doesn't matter the concentration of alcohol for this part, just do a light, keep the towel tight on your finger, move it every couple of swipes. This will help with your sanding later. Do a light wipe and get it off until it looks like this one. And again, if a piece pulls out, just you know, squish it back down in there and it'll be fine. And this will, like I said, make our sanding a little bit faster. Now, oh, one's moving. With the liquid clay, what kind of irritates me with the Kato, if anybody, I wish, I don't know. So when you read the instructions, this irritates me about any kind of instruction. When you read the instructions, right, it says, let me just close up my thing here. The instructions say, cure at 300 to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 150 to 175 degrees Celsius for 20 to 30 minutes. Why can't you just give me a temperature? Why does it have to be range? 300 to 350. So what's better? 300, 325, 350? Who knows? 20 minutes, 30 minutes? Like, come on, just give me an answer. Anyways, that's a pet peeve. So I'm going to bake this for the recommended length and amount of time, and then we will come back and finish smearing in and backfilling all of our clay, and then we should be good to, yeah, we'll do that next part, and then I'll be back. Anyways, I will get both of these in the oven for 30 minutes to let this part cure. Okay, all of my pieces are done baking now, and this is what they look like being backfilled with the liquid clay. And that's why I didn't fill fully. Do you see the shine the liquid clay gets? Now, if that's the effect you want, totally fine. Fill it fully with liquid clay. It's just not what I was looking for in my piece. I would rather have the clay match like normal black clay. So we're going to backfill now. Just like doing any kind of smearing, you want your clay to be really warm. And this one's kind of cooled off a little bit. But you really want to work it and work it and work it until it's fairly warm in your fingers. And then pretty much, pretty easy, we're going to smush. Technical term right there. So take a little piece, and with my thumb, I'm going to drag across and smush it in. Drag and smush. And it doesn't matter if it's a thick layer at first, just get a layer on there. Just get it all down in there. Fill every little gap in, just like you would do with grout on tiles or glass or whatever. Just fill in your gaps. And we don't need to worry about getting all the excess off right now. I have a better way to do that. So I just want to get a bulk coverage on here right now. So, sorry, I was sick a while ago. This cold went around. It's like a summer cold, and it's like lingering in my chest. I hate when those colds do that. They like linger in your chest. That's what this one's doing. This is a messy, just like doing the Jessima smear, this is kind of a messy part to the project, but it's worth it. And it will help support all those little pieces we cut out and give them stability. Now I'm going to use, once I get this all covered, next I'm going to use that painting knife I have, the palette knife, but you could also use your blade. I just like using my palette knife. I mean, I don't know why. I made a project not that long ago, which is what initially got me into this mindset. I made these pendants, and again, they were kind of based off of a Jessima design tutorial, but I added this crackle here and backfilled, so some of them are, and then this one here I did like that, but it's completely flat. It's got the crackle, and then it's backfilled with the color. So all I do next is I got it basically coated, and all I'm going to do is take my palette knife and start scraping off the big amounts here to reveal most of my piece. And now you don't want to worry about getting it all, because again, that's where sanding is going to come in. But the more you can get right now, the better it is. And let me show you, I already did this other one. And see, now it's fully backfilled here. So I'm going to continue just scraping this off, you know, take a peek at it. So scrape it off, and then, you know, maybe smooth it off with your finger, that kind of stuff. Get it to where you're happy, and then I'll show you what it looks like after I'm done scraping it. You don't need to sit here and watch me for 10 minutes. Probably not that it will take that long, but you don't need to watch me scrape the whole thing. I think you get the point. So I'm going to scrape that off. Okay, so most of it is scraped off. On this one, because it has this center rim, the center rim is up a little higher, so I can't get all the black off around it, which is fine, again, when I sand. So I took off most of it. Now I'm just going to go with my thumb and kind of smooth it off. You don't want any big gouges into it, because that will be a pain in the butt to smooth, or to sand later, I mean. So just get all these little, God, it's all stuck to my fingers, excess bits off, and I don't even like to waste those. I usually pick those little bits up with my big ball. So just go through and smooth it off. And you could take a baby wipe with some alcohol to get off your excess. But again, I want it all fairly even, so I'll just sand it later. And on these, because there's such a thick layer, I will use my Dremel first. And again, you could use like a coarse sandpaper, like a 400. But I'll use my 400 grit on my Dremel. And then I'll do it by hand, which I'll show you when we get there. Just making sure every piece has some around it, and there's no big gaps around each one. And then I'm going to kind of take my pinky and smooth this inside a little bit. Good. So what we'll do is I'm also going to add the backing right now. And that way this final bake will be the last bake, and we don't have to bake it again. So let me get my backing clay prepared, and then we'll get ready to do that on both of these. They look like a mess right now. Okay, so I have my backing clay prepared, and because these pendants are already quite thick, I'm just going to do a thin backing. And I have this clay rolled out on my number 3 on my pasta machine. Actually, I think I'm going to take it down to a 4 on my Atlas. So let me do that quick. And in real life, this is how I keep my clays. They don't look perfectly square. I don't cut them for sake of the video. I'm not going to cut them and make them all look pretty for you guys. I'm sorry. Love ya, but to spend hours editing videos just seems insane to me. You know, I'm sure you're getting the point by watching it. So what I'll do next is I will set my piece on, and I'm gonna, actually, where's my piece of, hang on a moment. I have a piece of parchment that I've been using for a while. So what I'm going to do is move this, set my piece of backing clay on the piece of parchment. Wish I could, oh, I can zoom out. Oh, nice. And then I'm going to set my piece on it, and I'm going to take my craft knife or any kind of scalpel or craft knife, and I'm going to do a rough cut around the outside. just to get a basic shape. And I will do this for the other one too. I'm just going to show you on one. So I'm going to cut around the outside. I'm going to leave the inside for now. Okay, so this is what I have. I'm going to pull it off, and I'm going to add some liquid clay just for a little extra security. I'm going to add some bacon bond to this. So just a tiny little bit. You don't need a lot. There, that's enough. Spread that around so you have a thin layer. And then set your piece back on. And it's so much easier doing it on a piece of parchment, because I've definitely done it on a piece of, on a tile, and then I got it all squished on, and then I couldn't, when I went to like lift it up off my tile, the backing stuck. So doing it on parchment, you can just peel the parchment away and then kind of just smooth off your edges. And I am using Sculpey 3 for this backing because I have enough strength in my pendant itself with the Primo, and I have a bunch of Sculpey 3. I'm just going to use that for this thin back just to make it look a little prettier. But it doesn't ever polish the same. So then I'm going to just, again, stick it on. Kind of give it a little smooth here. I am going to apply some texture. I just want to make sure it's on all the way. And then next I'm going to use a texture sponge. Now, Samantha has recommended this set of sponges on Jessima Design that I did end up getting, and they work great. But for the fine one, what I also bought is, because these were expensive, and I think it was called Towards Polymer Clay, and that was the only place I could find this really, really coarse one, and I couldn't really find anything in real life to match that. So, but before I had bought these to get that coarse one, I went on Amazon, again, Amazon, and I bought some fish filter, so fish tank filters, and it's almost like, I mean, it's a lot thicker, but it's almost the exact same texture. And I bought a huge thing of it for like $2, you know, or whatever. You'd have to actually look. But if you look up like fish tank filters and just buy a sheet of black filter, that would work totally fine. But I have this one, so I'm going to use this one. So I'm just going to press down and get a light design. I don't want any kind of big backing design. Just a light texture. Pat it down. See, it gives a fine texture there. And before I continue on, I'm going to cut out this center. So just with using my X-Acto knife, I'm going to find the edge of it. You just get the bulk out of here. And then I'll take a tool, a silicone tool, or one of my dental instruments. It's so funny because I'm a dental hygienist, and the amount of people I see in these videos, these YouTube videos, using dental instruments, it blows my mind. So this gold tool right here that I've seen on different polymer clay craft site shows, they sell them for like $12. These are gold handled rubber picks. Let's see, made by Sunstar Americas. These we give away free at my dental office. If you ask your dental office next time you go for a cleaning, hey, do you have a gold-ended rubber stimulator? They probably do. You don't need to pay $12. And honestly, if you look it up as a gold-handled rubber stimulator or a Sunstar American rubber stimulator, you could probably find it a lot cheaper than they sell. Just an FYI. So I'm going to take this silicone one and just kind of smooth a little bit. Again, we're going to do a lot of finishing later, so I usually wait. I don't sit there and smooth forever. I know some people do, and they think it's really helpful to do it ahead of time. If you use your Dremel, it doesn't really take that long to do it by hand afterwards. So that's why I'm really, you really should get comfortable with it. It might be a little scary at first because you have something spinning, but you can put it at the slow speed to where it's barely rotating. It's a little investment, but the amount of saving your hands and sanding and like even just my edges that I'll trim up later is huge. Huge, 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 huge. And there's no comparison. You will get such a better buff. No comparison by hand. I'm sorry, there's not. There's not. So there's my back. And what I was saying earlier, how at Michael's, I found this, and like, they have these bins right before checkout with all this cheap stuff in it. I got some of these. They're Studio G alphabet stamps. And I've been using these for a little while now. I don't know if I can fit my whole name on this. Let me see if I can. So my name is Katie Gordon, so I'm going to go K. A. T. I. And it's not perfect, but I'll show you in a sec. I'll bring it up in a second. E. So let me show you my... This is how I've been doing my... It's not too bad, right? And then I'll put my last name and right down in there. So I'll finish off my last name, and then I'll do the other one, and I'll show you when we're done. Okay, so here's my second piece, Katie Gordon, and I did put VT on it because people around here like to buy like local things. So I usually put a little VT if I can fit it. If not, I'll just do KG, just my initials. So these are the two pieces that look horrible at the moment, but I will get these in the oven. I'm going to do a final bake. I always bake things at, I would say, at least an hour, but for this, I'll probably do 45 minutes since most of the parts other than the backing and the smear have already been baked, and the smear is not very thick, and either is the backing. So I'll do at least 45 minutes because I want that to be properly baked, but I don't need to do an hour because the other parts are already have been in multiple times. But I never just bake for 30 minutes for a final bake, or if I'm doing a piece that's going to be baked just once, I don't do 30 minutes. I would do a full hour for sure. Like a cabochon like this that's going in one time, I would do a full hour for, at the recommended temperature for an hour. So anyways, I'll get these in the oven, and later we will, whether I do it tonight or tomorrow or whatever, we will sand and polish. I don't put paper on the back. I don't care if I get little shiny spots that end up showing up after I'm done sanding. Most of the time it doesn't show up because I end up sanding them and buffing them so much. So like, this is what my backs usually look like after they're sanded and buffed. So I didn't just put this straight on the tile. I don't know if you see any random shiny spots like they look like after they're baked, but you know what I'm talking about. Like this, I haven't done anything to, those shiny spots. But once you sand and buff it, it comes out pretty good. So anyways, getting these in the oven. I'll stop talking. See ya. Okay guys, so everything's out of the oven and cooled. Now, the reason why you're looking at my lap is because I'm going to trim, and I usually trim down here, so that's what I'm going to do, so it's going to be easier to show you. I can't hold this big thing and trim right over my bed. My camera's not far enough away for me to do that. So I wanted to quickly show you the bag I got off of Amazon for these bits that fit your Dremel. Let me see if I can, without tilting this stupid camera thing. It's called Drum Sander Set. It's a 384 pieces. And again, I can find the link if you guys ask, if people ask. So first it comes with the mandrels, the rubber mandrels, and it has different sizes. It has a big one, medium, little, and even a littler one. Then it comes with different grit discs. So it has big ones, medium ones, small ones in here. I'm not sure what the grits are because I don't use them all. Here's a 320, a 240, a 120, an 80. So mainly I use the 400 and 600. This I use for the removing big amounts of clay. So in a project like we're doing today. For the rest of this, I'm going to mute it. So right now, I have on the 400 because the lower the grit, the rougher it is. And I have on this little one because I think I can get that one for most of this inside part. And then I'll switch to the bigger one when I get to the outside. And then I'll hand sand when I'm done this. So again, I'm going to do this in my lap and I'm going to mute it so you don't have to hear it grinding everywhere. I'm in my PJs, as you can see. It's Sunday night. So anyways, I will grind this down and you won't hear it. Maybe I'll put some music on or something stupid because they have stupid songs. But anyways, just stopped for a second because this is something that I learned a long time ago. When you're using a Dremel, you see I'm holding it in my hand like this because it is big and I'm choked right up to the edge with my palm, and I'm using my thumb and pulling towards myself. If you're just out here free floating, you're gonna gouge something. Your hand's gonna slip. So, you know, support yourself with your thumb and just do gentle pressure until you get the shape you want, just like you would do with some sandpaper or, you know, different things. So again, I'm gonna continue on, but I just wanted to mention that. So I got a lot of it done. I'm going to do some more, but you don't need to keep watching it, and I'm going to do the other one. So it's getting a lot flatter. A lot of my pieces are now showing. I got the outside mostly done, but not 100%. The shape does need to be refined a little bit. So I'm going to keep going with this, and I'll be back when I'm done with both pendants, and I'm done getting this gross removal done. Okay, so both of my pendants now have most of the, well, actually only one of them. I just did the edges. I got to do this one. Most of the clay off. I'm going to go from a 400 grit sandpaper all the way up to a 3000. I'm going to use water. So let me just do, I just do it right on my counter. I do usually have a bowl of water as well that I dunk, but a lot of times I'll just wet my sandpaper a little bit, wet my pendant a little bit. And then with this one, because I want it really flat, I'm going to go face down like this a little bit. And gradually I'll add more water, because these ones are going to need a decent amount of sanding. And we also need to do the sides. And obviously keep an eye on your shape. Make sure your shape is looking good. You want to spend your most time on this 400 grit to make sure the shape is perfect. This is where your shape will come from. And then your shine is from the other ones. So just keep moving along. I'll go through on the top just so I can see where I still have clay over my mosaic pieces. And pretty much this is it. I'll do this until I'm happy with this one and everything's really smooth. And then I'll continue up. I'll go from 400 to 600, 800, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500, and then 3,000. And then I'll be done. And I'll just sand and buff after. Depending on the clay you use will depend on how high of a shine of a buff you get, because some of them really shine up nicely and others don't. So Sculpey 3, not a great shining clay. It definitely doesn't shine the greatest. That's why I only use it for like background stuff or filler for beads, stuff like that. But Primo shines nicely. Cernit shines really nicely. Kato shines nicely, or buffs nicely. So, you know, the sanding's pretty important. You're not going to get a good buff if you don't have a good sand. So it'll take me a while to get these nicely sanded flat to where I can see every single piece. I'll do that, and then I'll be back when I'm done with that as well, because I'm sure most of you know how to sand. Right, here we go. We got one sanded, and I couldn't get all the black off, and I'm not overly concerned about that. Sorry, it's tilting. I would say if you are really concerned about that, clean it up better before you do the final bake. And then this one has been sanded and then buffed. So just sanded and buffed. And this is definitely an easier pendant to make if you're not comfortable with a Dremel, because even this hole, like I can barely fit my pinky in it to sand. I still gotta run this under some water and get the sandpaper residue out of my name. But I'm gonna buff it next. So next what you'll do is you're gonna use that orange wheel or a buffing wheel, whatever you got. I use the orange wheel. And I'm just gonna show you this because if you do order this set, you get tons of them. So the faster you go, the more you'll trim. The faster you go, the more it will remove. And then the harder you press, the more it will remove. The lighter you press, the less it will remove, and the higher the shine. So the first time I go, I start around 15, and I do put the weight of the Dremel on it. I don't push into it, but I put the weight of the Dremel on it. So, you know, it's fully flat. Then, after I'm done that, I will do, stupid thing. I'll do a light buff with this, okay? So I'm gonna do that, ready? And it's on 15 setting, so I'm gonna do a, kind of just put the weight on it. I'm going to turn my up a little bit. And this will get out any bigger sanding grooves that you have left. And after I put just the weight on it, I'm going to reduce the amount of pressure I put to get more of a shine. So now I'm going to reduce the amount of pressure I'm putting, and that will get more of a shine. I'm going to do the same thing on the sides. I'm going to put more weight on it. It's hard for me to do it on camera because I usually do it towards me. And then I'm going to reduce the amount of pressure I'm putting and kind of buff it. And then I'm going to also do the back. And I just do the back lightly. I don't care if the back's super shiny, I just want it nice and smooth. Okay, and then that's it with this one. So let me switch over to the other one. So I've switched over to the softer tip, and I'm going to do the same thing. Put the pressure and then lighten the pressure. Put the pressure and then lighten it. Here's after I resined it. Super pretty, I think. Super neat looking. There's one. And here's the other one. So I placed a large jump ring on and a silver bail. And then you can put this on any cord you want. When I wear them, I just put them on a rubber cord from Fire Mountain Gems, but you can also wear it on like a leather cord. I have a leather cord down here. I do, you know. So I tend to just have a basic leather cord when I'm wearing all my personal ones, and then I can just, if you get big enough bails, or even if you don't, you could take the end off with the jump ring, and then every day I can wear a different pendant. So I drilled from front to back and put in my, I think it's pretty nice, huh? It's pretty neat to me. I think it's cute. And the other one I will order, like I said, I'm ordering some cord for it. And you want to wrap, I would wrap it, so I would make a loop from my piece of cord, and I'll just do a quick, I mean, I'm sure you guys know how to wrap through these type of pendants. Quick loop through. God, this camera's so hard to record with. And then pull your ends through. And I'm just using a pre-made rubber cord that I already have. And you can either have that on the front or put it through the other way. I think I'm going to put it through the other way. I'm going to put the, let me see, loop through the front. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to put the loop through the front. And pull it tight. And there's that one right there. Super pretty. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial.